Hello. Thanks for joining us for another monthly book review right here, Library Book Review. Tonight, I am Cetha Superior, and I'm joined here tonight by my co-host, E. Boogie. How's it going?
Hi, hello everybody. Good to see you
Hello.
again.
So, let me drink a little water because I just had a little drink and it's burning my chest, right?
Burning. What you drinking? Moonshine?
A little whiskey.
That would be
Last,
one theme for this book, I think.
in honor of the South, I'm drinking a little whiskey.
Little
But
whiskey.
speaking of the South, uh, this month we are, of course, if you saw the thumbnail, you know what we're talking about. We're talking about James by Percival Everett. And of course, I do have a little snippet about what it's about here. So it says, when Jim overhears that he is about to be sold to a man in New Orleans, separate from his wife and daughter forever, he runs away until he can formulate a plan. Meanwhile, Huck has faked his own death to escape his violent father. As all readers of American literature know, thus begins the dangerous and transcendent journey by raft down the Mississippi River towards elusive and unreliable promise, and toward an elusive and unreliable promise of the Free State and beyond. So this is a Huckleberry Finn retelling from the perspective of Inward Jim. I think that's how it was referred to in the original, right?
Yes.
Um, And I wanted to read it because I actually heard about it on TikTok. And this was the one time TikTok had some sense when it comes to the book reviews, because I was like, oh, this is actually classy. This is something, it's not a smut book. It's something that's,
Classy. Yes, definitely was a book with some substance, and
yes.
I could feel the sophistication with the subject matter and how it was handled.
All right. All right. So with that, please tell us your spoiler-free thoughts and star rating of the book.
Okay, thank you. So I I will say this book definitely caught me off guard. In the beginnings, I was a little, and this is my own fault because I used to read black authors that set their stories in this kind of either Reconstruction era, Jim Crow era, and Civil War era settings, and it didn't rub me the wrong way necessarily, and it didn't really put me in a place where I had to emotionally prepare myself. Where I
Okay.
am now, though, um, as an as an older reader, I do know from past stories in this kind of in this era those eras that they will be emotionally taxing, and that I do need some downtime after and sometimes between in order to process everything.
Mhm.
We're as a black person and as a very pro-black person, I feel that I am just in a place. I'm just in a place where I don't necessarily want to continue to inundate myself with the slave narrative.
Yeah.
However, I think that's what makes this book very special, is that it kind of takes that and flips it with a modern perspective, in that the story addresses like code switching, but in a way that fits the time,
Mhm.
um, which fully definitely resonates with me. Working in predominantly white spaces, often it just is. There is some I could relate to the main character James, and
Mhm.
then there were several other instances where I just felt such a connection to this main character, And I felt like everything that I was reading that he was experiencing, although there were scenarios and situations that were of the time, they still felt relatable to me in modern day and just living and working and trying to survive and thrive in America as a Black person.
Mhm.
So with that, I will give it a rating of 3.5.
3.5.
Now, the only reason it's not past that is because with these sort of hero's journey, I won't even say hero's journey. I mean, it kind of is. But when there's a main character that has to go on this journey, that has to go on kind of this quest,
Mhm.
it's hard to gauge the timing of
Okay.
all these things because there's so many things happening back to back to back. There's so many intense situations that and maybe that also like kind of speaks to when you are going through something, there's a bunch of things happening back to back, you kind of lose your sense of time. So maybe that's what's supposed to happen. But for me, it makes it difficult for me to kind of see how long, feel how long it's been, or kind of gauge how long it has been. And he went on a real journey, him and
Yeah.
Huck.
Yeah.
That to me would have taken a really long time, especially with all the on foot travel that they had. But
Okay.
definitely a 3.5. I would give it a little higher. That is the only uh, hesitation is the timing. I'm just like, this seems like it would have taken a year of traveling. My God. But overall, I really, really enjoyed this book, and it was such a sophisticated retelling.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know. It was quite moving. It was funny at times, and funny in an ironic way a lot of times. But yeah, that's what it is.
All right. 3.5, you said.
3.5.
All right. Okay. For me, uh, I never read Huckleberry Finn. From what I saw online before picking this book, they said it wasn't necessary all the way. I didn't feel like it was all the way necessary, but after reading it, I am kind of curious about it. Um, the only thing that I'm hesitant, the only reason why I'm hesitant to go towards Huckleberry Finn after this is because we get so much of a three-dimensional James, and knowing that the character isn't that in the original makes me hesitant to go back to it, because though it was the book Huckleberry Finn was supposed, it was very progressive for its time. Um, some of the things that I heard online as far as criticisms of it were that it didn't make sense for Jim to go back to Huck, or not go back to his family, because in the original, spoiler alert, I don't know, it's older version, spoiler at this point, but Jim abandons his quest to find his wife and daughter to stay with Huck. Um, so I much prefer this James to what I've heard about Jim and Huckleberry Finn. Now, as far as the writing in this book, it felt very, at least a large portion of it felt very old timey. It felt like, okay, you have that. I don't know how to explain it. It's like you said, the hero's quest, but it's almost like only thing I can think of in comparison would be like the Wizard of Oz, where you're going down the yellow brick road, and then there's, oh, you meet this person, oh, you meet this person, and you meet this person. That's
Yeah,
how
yeah,
it felt, right?
yeah.
Um, and I enjoyed that, but I feel like it's still it's an older kind of trope that I don't really see as much at least in the stories that I read. So it felt very true to a retelling of an older book to me. Um, all in all, I outside of a couple things there, when you first read the book, there is a portion of it that I was like, okay, what are we doing here at the very, very beginning? And then it was like, oh, this is a poem at the beginning of the story. I wasn't clear on that at first. I was like, is this how the story's going to be the whole time? Um, but
Yeah, same, same.
but I'm trying to think if I had a star rating. This is so hard because I really,
Right.
I really liked the book, but there were some, not even issues, there were some things that I noticed that were a little inconsistent only because you couldn't tell where the Huckleberry Finn story kind of wasn't there. And this is the Arthur, not all the way though, not at every point, but closer to the end, you can tell, okay, we're no longer following Huckleberry Finn at all. This is a whole different reimagining, like almost like a fan fiction, if you will.
Mhm.
You can tell this doesn't happen in the book, right? So even though I enjoyed the ending, I felt that I could feel that this isn't what happened, and it kind of took it out of the book for me. It felt more in the realm of a fan fiction than it would like a book, if that makes sense. But overall, I did like the book, so I'm going to give it a 4 star. I'm giving it 4 stars for me. Yes.
I think that's a good that's definitely a good rating because I was very very close.
Uh-huh.
I'm pulling it back a little bit just for a couple very very technical and small reasons, but
Okay.
they're mostly like my own biases. Okay, go ahead.
All right, well, we can get into those because now we are headed into spoiler time. Okay, again, so if you haven't read the book, this is your time to exit the video. Come back after you've read it because now we're getting into spoilers and discussions of the book. So I have a couple notes that I wanted to discuss with you, but please feel free to share what was it that what brought you back from giving it a 4 star.
Okay, so the big reveal, there's two big reveals, one slightly smaller, but the biggest reveal is that James is Huck's father.
Yeah.
This was hinted at so much,
Uh-huh.
so it just didn't. I'm not gonna say like yes, I was gagged when he finally told him,
Yeah.
but it
Like
was
that.
like, we know that pretty early on, and I feel
Uh-huh.
like I don't know if it's. I'm starting to get the sense that I'm either really good at recognizing patterns, or maybe James just didn't need it to be about whether he was his actual father or not, but more about whether he was going to tell him that he was his father, therefore shattering what Huck has kind of developed as his identity as a white boy. Now,
Mhm.
while Huck is already kind of broaching an epiphany about his personal feelings on slavery and how Black people are treated in that time, and how just where he is with that, um learning that he's biracial, it's like you can tell he's still a very 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 young boy, and
Mhm.
he really isn't. It's like in the beginnings, it seems like he's equipped emotionally to develop his own opinion on slavery because he is befriended. He's friends with James,
Mhm.
and he really trusts him, and they're so close, and so it's really helping him develop not only a moral compass that is so far ahead of his age and that time, but
Mhm.
just his empathy as a man of that time.
Mhm.
And learning he was biracial is like, it wasn't earth shattering, but it did kind of like throw him for a loop that I don't think that he was really ready for. But I guess when it came down to it, he had to know because they were separating, and we don't know if they'll ever really see each other again.
Okay, yeah.
I think also it will help Huck in ultimately to know that his pappy wasn't his pappy because his dad was a evil
Yeah.
somebody. And
Clearly the dad knew that Puck wasn't his, I think, right? Because he was always
definitely,
looking at
he
the windows, peeping
definitely
and
knew.
everything.
The dad definitely knew because he hated Jim off rip, like,
Uh-huh.
and the
I
way they
wonder
kept
why he
establishing.
didn't do anything to Jim though. Like he ain't coming to approach Jim off of, any kind of, animosity or as far as like he didn't confront Jim on being the dad to Huckleberry, at least Huck, right?
Hell no,
So
he
I
not
wonder
about
if he
to.
just suspected, but he couldn't prove it. And he was just always comparing the widow's peak the whole time.
No, he knew. But sometimes people, especially people of his ilk from
Uh-huh.
that timing, they live in la la land, and it's helped better for them to be delusional. Which James, this is a part of the book I really liked, was James always being like, they like to feel smarter than you. Like
Mhm, mhm.
he
Yeah,
was
yeah.
cracking me up how he
Uh-huh.
was like, I mean, not only like the slave language that they would invoke anytime white people were around, and that it some there were times that it made me laugh. There were times that it was like, oh my god, I can't imagine like having to be going through that.
Mhm.
At the same time, there were other times that he was like, oh,
What?
we got to protect the white ego.
Uh-huh.
But they did it in a way that was funny when it was him among his peers,
Yeah. Mhm.
most of the time. I was really shaken by what happened to Sammy and what happened to Norman. I was shaken by Sammy's entire time in the story.
Mhm.
Um, Sammy's reveal, although not really a developed character, that reveal that did have me like like I just wasn't ready.
Mhm.
And then kind of also losing Sammy so quickly was like I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. I experienced loss, so much loss. I experienced all of James' loss in this book and took it to heart, and it was difficult to um to accept, especially
Okay.
Norman.
Yeah, that one hit me harder than Sammy because honestly, when
Yeah.
Sammy came, I already suspected her to not survive, right? Um,
Mhm.
but Norman, I it's for me, it's more of the way how he died. Because he went out of his way, I feel like a lot for James, right?
Yeah.
He brought him into, he's passing. He didn't have to do none of this, right? He didn't have to do.
Yeah.
He could have just went off and found his wife by himself, but he brought James, and James just leaving him to drown, bro. That's
No, it
crazy to me.
wasn't. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't a just leaving. You know that.
Ugh, I don't know,
Like
bro. And
it was.
it's like you're with Norman to help find your wife and kids. So are you going to go after your wife and kids? Or are you going to go after this boy who's passing, who don't even know you as daddy? And I get it. Like I get it's a tough decision to make. But if in your head this whole time it's been about my wife and kids, you haven't even told Huck at this point that he's your son. I don't know. It just I would have swam to
He,
Norman. I'll tell you what.
oh, what? Okay, so
Yes, because
I
somebody
don't
would have
believe.
saved
I
Huck.
don't
Huck is a
believe
white
you.
boy.
I don't believe you.
Is a white
He
child. Somebody jumping in that river for Huck. Nope. I don't think somebody would go for Norman, even though he's passing. He's still a grown ass man. They're going to go for the child, right?
I will say I'm a little surprised that Huck wasn't able to swim. Now
Yeah.
maybe there was a current happening. I wouldn't be surprised if there was,
Mm-hmm.
but man, nah, he couldn't let his son drown. That to me. I'm not gonna say that's crazy, but I would be shocked if he let Huck drown. I really would be. And to be fair, Percival could not re. Oh yeah, I guess he could kind of rewrite. Well, no, that was an integral part to him finding out the
But
secret.
the thing is, in the original book, apparently, um, Huck it isn't said that Huck is Jim's son, right?
Mhm.
People
Mhm.
throughout the years kind of put together that Huck is passing or could potentially be passing. It's not a fact of the
Yeah.
book, it's just what people theorize,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Um, but in the book, I don't believe there's an Norman because again, I haven't read Huckleberry Finn and I haven't heard anyone mention him.
Mhm.
But for Jim to abandon his quest for his daughter and the mother of his daughter, his wife. Even in this book, we do see that he still continues to go after them, right? But in Huckleberry Finn, it seems like he just decides not to do that. So that doesn't sit right with me still. And even though
Yeah.
he does it in this book, I'm thinking, bruh, he risked it. He even risked it to rescue Huck, and I'm like that still don't sit right in my belly. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately it is meant to make us feel that way and make us feel that push pull that James felt, especially after developing Norman so thoroughly
Yeah.
and developing their friendship and relationship dynamic so thoroughly. Honestly, what came to my mind though, after it, was obviously verbally confirmed by James, was that Norman kind of was a surrogate uh, Huck, not only in travel companion, but in that it was like a window into what Huck's life could end up being.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, except for the fact that Norman was fully aware that he was a black man.
Yeah, he was down for the
Um,
cause. He said,
yeah,
"I don't
like
even like looking like this. I wish, you know."
period.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I feel that James' connection to Norman and James' kind of push pull really with even trusting Norman um, really informed his decision on telling Huck about it, and
Mm,
also just yeah, I mean I think that it really was like a weight between saving the both of them with that in mind,
mhm,
that my son is biracial, like this very dear friend of mine, and um like I see where what the writer was doing. I see that there's a connection there in James, or like from James' perspective, like just seeing kind of a grown up Huck, I guess.
mhm.
Um, I thought
Now,
that was well done.
one question I was thinking as I was reading the book, right, as we were introduced to more and more characters along the way, I was thinking to myself, I wonder how many of these characters were in the original work versus how many he created, right?
Mm,
And okay, I think I wrote down a couple. I think that Daniel Decatur Emmett, who was like I think the Virginia Minstrels, the singing group,
yeah.
I feel like he was maybe created in this book. Again, I don't
Okay.
know. So if anybody's watching later, let us know who's in what. But when we were introduced to his character again, he wasn't a abolitionist. But he was against slavery, right? He even offered to pay James for singing in his group, right?
Hmm.
And honestly, that whole thing kind of felt like Sinners to me. I don't know if you is he giving remake? Because he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll do this. I'm against it, but I'm still about to, Uh, even with the singing group, how remake was trying to sing it to the damn juke joint and shit. But I feel like maybe he was original to this. James, uh, Norman. I'm not sure. I feel like I could see Norman not being in Huckleberry Finn, but I could also see him just being a name mentioned, and
Hmm.
as Arthur kind of expanded on his story. I don't think if he is in Huckleberry Finn, I feel like he probably wasn't a passing slave. He may have just been a man who drowned in the river, and maybe the author decided to give more backstory to that character. I don't know. Um, I'm assuming everyone we saw that Huckleberry also didn't see was original to this story. Like who would that be? Like that slave who was in the crazy one who maybe lost his mind, who was in the boat loading up the
Yeah.
smokestacks. What was his name? It was like Barack or Broke
I think it was Brock.
Brock. Yeah. And that was another thing. Do you think
Scary.
do you think his master was alive, or was he crazy? Like Jim was thinking like there was no Master Cody or whatever that guy's name was.
Yeah, I don't think that that was a real person.
Um,
And I think, yeah, I think him, Brock, that is,
mhm.
being down there and not getting any sunlight and only eating what is provided to him at the door and never leaving that space. I feel like he has had a lot of time by himself and had to create this person on the outside that does think about him at some that thinks of him,
Mhm.
because he I don't think he has anything else.
Oh man.
I'm not gonna lie. I would have loved a little bit more development on him, but that
Yeah.
said, like this being from James' perspective, I can see the value in kind of keeping that character mysterious, because ultimately he was really scary and it was really obvious that he was insane
Yeah,
for
something
me.
wasn't right.
Yeah, yeah.
And lastly, well, a couple of things. Towards the end of the book, it was more clear that okay, this isn't anything that happened in Huckleberry Finn, because we see that James is back, and he witnesses the R word of another slave. Her name is Katie, and following that, he goes on to um, murder that overseer, the overseer who R worded Katie the slave.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
That's
following
so
that,
satisfying.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I
satisfying.
really liked it. I was like, okay, yes,
Yeah.
yes, there's some justice here, right? Then following that, he goes on to Judge, whatever, Judge Thatcher, who I'm
Mm-hmm.
assuming is in the first book, in the original book. And instead of getting the information and offing Judge Thatcher, he doesn't, and like leaves him
Mm-hmm.
chained up. So I'm like, why would you? And the only reason I'm thinking is because this character must live on in the book, in the original book, and he couldn't kill him and have it make sense with the original book. That's the only reason. Because why would you get this information? He knows who you are. He knows where you're going. You already killed one guy. Just go ahead and get rid of this.
I mean, killing a judge.
He already on the run, bruh. He already killed one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
But I
guess.
am glad
Yeah.
the ending was so satisfying to me, because after he did get to his daughter and wife, they go on to another city with a few of the other runaway slaves.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time they get to that city, they have already heard about Inward Jim, right? And so they ask, "Are you
Mm-hmm.
any of you Inward Jim?"
Mm-hmm.
And he introduces everyone, and he finally gets to himself, and he says, "I am James." And I say, "Oh yes, yes, yes!" So they're even gonna put it together.
You know, just two things. I I need to let the ending sit with me for a bit. I did.
Oh, okay.
I finished it. I started the book because it's a short book, guys. So don't shoot me. I started it yesterday, got about halfway through, and then finished the other half today.
Okay.
I split the other half today into two like sections.
Mhm.
And I finished like a little bit before the show. Now the ending, I'm feeling that we are supposed to feel empowered by
Mhm.
him claiming his, you know, his true name, and
Mhm.
not this simplified version that obviously is also like wanted, right?
Yeah.
And also him speaking in his normal uh, speech
Yeah.
style, very educated, very educated and sophisticated style of speaking. And I felt that. That said, I felt so uncertain with him saying his real name. And it
Really?
just, yeah, I just got a feeling of like, we just came all the way through this journey. We got to our goal. And, you know, while, yes, him claiming his name and claiming his true identity basically as an educated black person.
Mhm.
Like, I personally would have lied.
And
I
gave a whole
felt
different name?
absolutely.
No, but they weren't looking for James. They were looking for Jim. So he still gave them a name that they weren't looking for.
Jim is an abbreviation of James, and
Still,
no.
still, they still ain't gonna put it together. They still ain't gonna put it together.
I hope you're right, because for me, yes, love that power, right? A reclamation.
Uh-huh.
But then at the same time, like, you just gone to all this trouble. It's almost like, and you got your real wife's name, your real child's name. It's like, there's just a
Hey,
lot. And I just feel like I would have assumed a new identity, period. Like,
that's true.
I don't know. I felt a lot of uncertainty with him doing that, but I also just was like, yes, there's power. So I guess
Okay.
that was another reason why I had to like rank a few half points down, because I
All
was
right.
just like, he went through all this. I mean, it was powerful. It
Uh-huh.
was it was it was a powerful moment. It was a very very powerful way to seal the story.
Mhm.
I just also was very afraid,
Okay.
very fearful when he did that. Okay.
There was one other thing that I wanted to mention. When we have the hallucinations that he has. Uh,
That
yeah,
that was amazing.
yeah. There were a couple different people. There was a French woman at the end. There was one name I wrote down, John Locke, who was one that he hallucinated. I think there was another. Um,
Voltaire.
oh yeah, Voltaire. So I
I don't
wonder.
remember the
I just
French
wonder how
woman.
he thought of this. What made him think to have this character speak with these people in his dreams and in his hallucinations. It was very powerful, but it's still like, oh, I wonder how he thought of it.
Because they're like, well, Voltaire, at least, they're like a philosopher,
Mhm.
and like, I don't remember a lot about John Locke. I'm a
I think this was the person
I'm a
because by the time I started writing, this was the one who wrote the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution for. I didn't write the name of the country now, so forgive me, but
yeah.
it's some country in the Caribbean, some island. But then apparently also wasn't um, didn't feel the same way in the South or something. He wrote something for the South that was kind of opposite to what the other thing was, and I think that was John Locke, but I didn't write down much after that.
I'm so sad I don't remember, because I'm a survivor of Lost.
Mhm.
And so I'm very familiar with the name and like looking
Oh yeah, the
him
ball
up and
guy.
all that. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
But like,
wow.
there was like true meaning behind that character being named that. And
Uh,
there was a real John Locke, and there's some philosophical and sophisticated uh, significance to him speaking to him, but at this in his hallucinations. I really like that. I wish it happened more frequently. I
uh-huh.
know it happened more when he was like really really stressed
Hmm.
and sleeping and just on the cusp of capture, or when he felt like he was like dying.
Hmm.
um I thought that gave an element of whimsy to this
Hmm.
otherwise really difficult situation that he
Hmm.
was in. And um, it just really emphasized how educated he is, and how
Okay, good.
how developed his internal self is.
Hmm.
I thought that was really cool, and it just really spoke to the type of person he is. Like, he's like really I can't think of the, not only is he an intellectual, but he's like internally, like he's a internal
Introspective.
dialogue. Thank you. He's very introspective. And I think that that's really cool that he used them as a tool to continue to develop these attributes of James. Whereas I'm guessing, because I don't remember. I've read portions of the old story,
Oh, okay.
um, the original, and it was while James or Jim was meant to, like, he does come across as more sophisticated than he lets on, um, emotionally, and kind of like in his interaction with other people, and his ability to read a situation and explain it to Huck,
Mhm.
um, about like socio dynamics of being a black person in that time. Is a man of very few words, and you kind of have to infer more.
Okay.
Whilst here, there's internal dialogue that we get to kind of be behind the scenes in, that helps develop that character further.
Mhm.
Um, God, I just said so much. That was a mouthful.
No, no, no. This is what we're here for. But
That's
yeah,
it. That's it.
I really enjoyed the book. And honestly,
Yeah.
like you, I don't really much like to go to slave books and slave movies. It's depressing, right?
Just not anymore. Not anymore. I used to get
Yeah,
into all of that. Now I'm just like, you know,
it's
a little
yeah.
less.
This one was less depressing to me. There were certain parts I was like, dang.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but there were certain things that made me feel like, dang, I need to start changing some stuff that I do, because even though it's very small, but him being able to read, and people, so other slaves are like so shocked by it, and him even stealing the pen, and another slave was killed because he stole the pen.
Yeah.
Um,
Young George.
yeah, it just made me want to exercise reading physical books more. I know we listen to a lot of audio books, because it was 2025, fast paced life. We're doing things, it's easiest to do. But I'm going to attempt to, in my free time, read more
Yeah.
hardcovers, like more in your hand books, because we weren't always allowed to do that. It
Yeah.
makes me want to do that more. Um,
You have a big book collection of books I haven't finished
mhm.
yet in my library. So yeah, I feel that, and I know there is such value in having a hard copy of a book, especially now when we don't know if we're gonna continue to have access digitally to
Yeah,
a lot of
things
books.
disappear. You buy it, and next thing you know, you
Yeah.
can't act. That's what's going on with all these movies and stuff on streaming. But anyway, uh, that was our monthly book review. Thanks for joining us. Please like the video if you like the video, and join us next month for E's pick, which whatever that may be.
Now I know I just said so much about Jim Crow era, but I am considering reading um, a story called Sugar,
Mm-hmm.
which I do believe is set in that era. I'm hesitant though, if I'm being honest, for that same reason. Like I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know. I might bring us back to the future instead.
Okay. Okay. We can add it to the docket down the line if it's not the book for next month.
Yeah, they're saying that there's like a short list of books that every black woman should read, and Sugar is on there alongside obviously like Color Purple, right? And
Did they make that into a show
Sula.
a few years ago? Was that the show that had the girl from True Blood in it for a little bit?
But Sugar,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I first just recently heard of this book.
Okay, maybe it's something completely different. Okay. All right.
Oh, you're thinking of I know what you're thinking of. Yeah. No, I don't know. I don't know. I
Okay.
don't think so. That was
Okay.
that
All right.
modern day.
Okay. So that's
Queen
that's
Sugar.
shortlisted. Queen Sugar. Oh, that's what it's okay.
That's what you're thinking of?
Maybe that's probably it. With
Yeah.
Tara from True Blood. If that's
Yeah, I think
okay.
so.
Yeah, that's the one. But okay, let us know if you do decide Sugar or you decide something else, and I'll post on it, and you guys watching, you'll be well aware before we do our next book review at the end of next month. All right. So thank you for watching, and good night and goodbye.